Wow, I'm actually kind of surprised. I feel like last week, PD didn't have a lot of people show up, and it was a beautiful, beautiful sunny day. And now, jokingly, we said people don't come out on sunny days and people don't come out on rainy days. So we have to have like average weather for people to come out. But I'm really glad everyone's here. It doesn't matter how many people are here. Even if only like one person was here. Like if I was preaching to PD, that'd be okay. Like, that'd be kind of weird if I was just preaching to PD. But God is good. But everyone knows what happened this weekend, right? Like, biggest weekend in the past 10 years for me. Anybody have any idea why it was like the biggest weekend for me, like forever? Avengers, thank you. Yes, Avengers came out this weekend. Many people already saw it.
Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. Man. So I'm not going to talk about it today. Don't worry, it's not a sermon. I'm not going to spoil anything in the Avengers for those who haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll go with you the second time, possibly a third time, because I really want to see it again.
Yep.
Yes, it is that good. Don't worry, you'll enjoy it. Even for people who don't like comic books, you'll enjoy it. But anyways, I will say this, though. That after maybe a couple months, after everyone's kind of settled down and watched it, I will probably prepare a couple sermons from like the Avengers, just because historically I've done like, you know, Captain America and Iron Man and stuff like that, but we'll see when that time comes. But I just want to really thank you guys for coming out today. I know sometimes it's hard to wake up on Sunday to come to church at 1 o'clock. It really is. I mean, sometimes, you know, I don't know how you guys Saturdays are. I don't know what you guys do sometimes. Like, if you go bowling or hang out late, or I heard the fight was on last night, like, you know, some people were watching the fight yesterday. Like, it's just really a blessing to me, Pastor David, Sister Una, to see you guys come out, no matter what the weather is. And it's just really awesome, really encouraging. I want to ask you guys how your week was. Like, you don't have to answer, because, I mean, we'll have like a billion people saying all their weeks all at once, but I just really want to ask, because like, so many times I don't get to talk to a lot of you guys during the week. Maybe I'll talk to you after church today during fellowship time. But I hope your week was good. And if it wasn't, I pray that next week, this new week, will be even better. But I just want to be honest for a little bit. Like, these past few weeks for me have not been the easiest weeks, I guess, this year. Don't want to get too deep into it. But I will say, like, you know, some of you guys know my grandmother's health is not the best right now. Like, swollen ankles, high blood pressure. We just don't know what to do. Like, a lot of doctors are prescribing her all these different medicines. The house is not in the best financial state. Like, you know, we're not out of the river yet. We're out of the water, I think that's the term, right? We're not out of the water yet. Even though there's good news on the horizon. And even like, there's just so much going on. And it's been tough. Petey talked about KBMF last week. And I never got a chance to really talk about it too, because it was really actually a blessing for me. And I know a lot of people, a lot of guys who went, they all received their blessings in their own ways. And for me personally, I was really wrung out. I think that's the word, right? You know, when you bring a towel, you know? Like, I thought I was going to be having a time of peace, a time of relaxation, but really, God was really working in my heart. So these past couple of weeks have been very up and down, a lot of turmoil, a lot of struggle. Like, even yesterday, right? Saturday, it was a beautiful day in the morning at least. And I told Pastor David's sister I was going to take Saturday off to get some stuff done. And man, I got a lot knocked out yesterday. You know, typical things like mowing a lawn. You know, a lot of times people don't really mow lawns too much anymore. Like, I didn't realize how hard it is to really take care of a house. I'm not a homeowner. You know, I live in a home with my grandmother, but when she tells me she pays $75 for some people to cut our front yard and backyard, I kind of want to ask her, like, Grandma, you can give me $75 for mowing the lawn. But no, I didn't say that. I actually mowed the lawn. Actually, me and Brandon did. And the funny thing about Brandon is he doesn't really mow the lawn too much. So when he was mowing it, because you know how you're supposed to like cut like a square, right? Kind of back and forth. He left the little line in the middle. So every time he went and turned around, he kind of didn't go over where he left. So we had little like pieces of line on the entire yard. So we had to go over like twice just to make sure everything was done. But stuff like that, like water was leaking in the bathroom, stuff in the house was just not working. I know like Pete shared a couple weeks ago to me that his bathroom at his old house flooded. And for us, our basement basically flooded with all this brown stuff everywhere. I don't want to ask or know what it was, but I had to sit there and snake 25 feet of cord through this brown, mucky, nasty smelliness. But that was my Saturday. I just did a bunch of things, and it gave me a sense of joy. Because if you guys don't know my grandmother, she's very old-fashioned. She likes her house perfectly clean. Like, if there's like a piece of dust on the floor, like one piece of dust, she'll start talking for like 20 minutes until that piece of dust is gone. Like, if you walk into my house, it's always clean. There's no dust on top of the TV, on top of the fireplace. There's not even a spot on the stove. Like, the stove where we cook all the time is spotless. You know, and I had this sense of pride, I guess, this sense of joy to really do things for my grandmother yesterday. You know, trying to save her some money here and there, trying to make her life just a little bit easier. You know, and I just had a sense of purpose out of that. But talking about that, like, have you guys ever tried cooking for like your grandmother or your grandfather, if your grandparents are still around? I don't know if you guys have ever done it. I've actually tried it twice now, cooking for my grandma. And I think I do a great job. But honestly, no matter how good you get, grandmother always has something to say that you could have made it different or better. You know what I mean? Like, that's how she is with me. She knows I'm trying to bring her joy, to do these little things for her, to provide for her. But she already knows how to do all these things. Like, I give her tips, for example. Instead of sweeping every single day, like in the same area, I was like, Grandma, why don't you just wait until the end of the day when you're about to go to bed and sweep it? Don't sweep every hour, Grandma. It's okay. But then she tells me, he's like, Peter, do you want to come home to a dirty house? And that's what she says to me, and I'm like, oh, wow. You know, stuff like that. You know, I think I'm helping her out, but in all honesty, I figured out that Grandma, my grandmother, right, does so much for me every single day. As much as I talk about her and the struggles that she goes through, like, I never really thought about the little things that she does. Like, yes, I come home, the house never smells bad. The floor is spotless. The carpet is always clean. Like, whenever some of you guys come over, PD's come over a couple times, there's never something wrong in the house. It's just always nice. I've never come home to a place where it was messy, where the floor was dirty, the carpet wasn't clean. I've never had that before. And I took that for granted, you know? And it caused me a lot to think about the past few weeks, about youth group, about church ministry, about stuff like that. Because sometimes I think I'm doing God a favor. Oh, no one else is doing the youth right now. Like, you do youth ministry. Maybe I'll do God a favor and help out. Maybe, you know, we should do like all these little events, and, you know, I'm being available to God because He needs me. You know, at work or at home or at church is the same way. But then I really started thinking about the past couple of years. Like, you guys, some of you guys have heard the stories where at FKBC, before we left, we have so many ups and downs. We've gone from like 3 people to 50 people, like a roller coaster. And I'll be honest, I kind of pride myself, and this is the bad part, the selfish part. I kind of pride myself in saying, yes, I was one of those 3. I was one of those who stayed. I believed I was doing something for God, that I was helping Him out, that He needed me. But far from it. I realized during KBMF and during these past couple of weeks that God doesn't need me. Through prayer and through reading His Word, honestly, at the end of the day, He does not need me to do whatever it is I think He needs me to do. And that's really hitting my pride, because for me as a person, I love being helpful. I love to do things as much as I can for the people I care about. But for me to read the Bible and say, God says, look, Peter, I don't really need you to do all these things for me. Understand them. And it really broke me. You know, I realized that God doesn't need me for His purpose. But what He really wants is for me to participate in His joy. If you have your Bibles, can we open up to Acts chapter 17? That's going to be our main text today. If you guys don't have it, you can read up on the screen. If you can't read up on the screen, you need glasses. Read the little piece of paper that Gloria gave you when you came in. It's like everywhere. But I'm actually going to be reading out of ESV Bible today. It's my first time preaching out of ESV Bible, so I'm kind of excited. So if you guys don't have the same ones, I apologize. But just like how much I think I know my grandmother, right? I think she needs this and help and to wash the dishes, and I think I know her. I really don't. Sometimes I need a reminder of who she is when she sits down and talks with me. Sometimes, even with my relationship with God, I need a reminder of who He is. And we'll start reading from verse 24 and 25, if you have your Bibles. Let's take a minute to jump into the Word. Verse 24. The God who made the world and everything in it, being Lord of heaven and earth, does not live in temples made by man, nor is He served by human hands as though He needed anything, since He Himself gives to all mankind life and breath and everything. I'll reread verse 25 one more time. Nor is He served by human hands as though He needed anything, since He Himself gives to all mankind life and breath and everything. Those are one of the things that God really challenged me with during my time at KBMF, during my time of prayer during these 2 weeks since KBMF. It reminded me of my old sermon from last year. I don't know if you guys remember it when I talked about the qualities of God. How God is wholly independent from His creation. He doesn't need this universe to exist. How in Psalms 90, verse 2, it says, before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the whole world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. God being always eternal, independent from His creation, timeless, and omnipresent. If you guys know what omnipresent means, He's everywhere at all times of history, even right now and every moment in the future. Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 23 to 24 says, am I only a God nearby, declares the Lord, and not a God far away? Who can hide in secret places so that I cannot see them, declares the Lord? Do I not fill heaven and earth, declares the Lord? I just want to remind you guys, like He reminded me, that He's not some pocket rabbit's foot or Gumby, or like I talked to the youth group on Friday, that He's not some magical sky daddy. He's not our Santa Claus. We don't come to Him with lists saying, God, I want this, 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 and this. We're talking about an independent, all-powerful, all-knowing God. And here I am thinking God needs me to do His work. I cracked myself up. I really did. I had to sit there and just laugh at myself. Like, really? How highly did I think of myself? There's a commentary that PD reads, and actually I'm starting to read this commentary too, and it's a really awesome guy named Matthew Henry. But basically he says this. Yeah, Matthew Henry. He says this. When I say He, it means God. He that made all and maintains all cannot be benefited by any of our services, nor needs them. God that made all and maintains all cannot be benefited by any of our services, nor does He need them. It's funny because when I think of trying to help out my grandmother, like I said earlier, I think she needs help. I think I'm offering her ways to do things better. But really, everything that I've ever learned about, like honestly, cooking and cleaning and helping her out, she already knows. I learned it from her. And just like God, everything that I have, the things that I think that I'm good at, that I think God needs, whatever it is, writing sermons, I'm not that great at it, speaking in front of people, whatever, all those talents, yes, God gave it to me. Yes, I think God needs them, but no, He doesn't really need them from me. He can easily put anybody else up here, any of you. I can easily be replaced. I was reminded at KBMF, I was humbled so deeply by a pastor who rebukes me in a way that I have never been rebuked before. I learned that God doesn't need my plans, my ideas, my strategies for ministry. He doesn't need any of those things. to do his work. Because then it becomes not God's work or God's will. It becomes my work, my plans, my ideas, my success. But I was humbled. I was rebuked. In the eyes of my brothers, I was rebuked. Did I feel bitter? I'll be honest, I did. Just a little bit, for a short time. But then I realized God was trying to break me and teach me a lesson. Like how our brother Eugene, when he came from California, I love the way he said it. At the end of the day, it is God who will reveal himself through the way that he deems necessary. Not through powerful speakers. Not through PowerPoint presentations. Not through worship teams. But God will reveal himself in ways that he sees necessary. Peter, I don't need you. Don't ever think for a moment that I can't do this without you. And that's what he spoke into my heart. Verse 26 and 27. And he made from them one man, every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined allotted periods and boundaries of their dwelling place, that they should seek God in the hope that they might feel their way toward him and find him. Yet he is actually not far from each one of us. I want you guys to focus on the word. I think the word determined is in the NIV. Ken, is this the NIV verse up here? It's not the NIV? Okay. Verse 26. Having determined the time period and boundaries of their dwelling place. And sometimes, guys, just to take this verse for a second, sometimes I actually question myself. I question myself and ask, and I pray. I'm like, God, is this really where you want me to be? Was that prayer I made 10 years ago saying that, God, I want to commit myself to your work. I want to commit myself to your ministry. I want this to be my life's calling. Was that all just me, or did you really call me out? I question myself. Because I see so many of my friends and my family who are successes in the world, but at the same time still powerful believers in the Lord. And I don't doubt some of my friends and families' salvation. They are amazing workers in the Lord, and at the same time so successful that they're taking care of homes and families already. And I question it. I'm like, what if circumstances could be different? What if I could be that type of person? What if I was meant to just be a regular churchgoer, but still have such a strong faith in God, but still be able to these questions run rampant through my mind. I know maybe some of you think about that. Is this where you're really supposed to be? Maybe you question your work. Maybe you question your choices in college. What if you could do it again? What if you could do it differently? Would you do the same exact things to bring you to this point right now? But the beauty of where you are right now is really all part of God's plan. Right here, when it says determined, he determined your time and your place. If you read the old Greek, the word determined is actually, and PD, if my Greek is really bad, I haven't taken the class yet, so I'm going to try to say the word. Horisos. Sounds like a bad sriracha sauce or something. But it means this. The word determined, the actual meaning is, it is a fixed, unchangeable, set into stone. Where you are has been determined by God. Not as in he shaped every single moment, as in, we don't have a choice or free will. We're not going to even get into that. But the idea is, everything that you've already done, God provided a way every single time for you to make that choice wherever you were at that moment. Every choice that led up to this point where you're sitting in your chair right now. He determined an unchangeable point to where you are. The question is why? Verse 27. That they should seek in the hope that they might feel their way toward him and find him. I believe is the answer to why God brought us to this point. Why some of us have gone through family divorces. Why some of us have seen our friends pass away. While some of us have choices that we wish we never made. He brought it all, those type of things, so that we could possibly seek Him, reach Him, and find Him. If I can give you just a little bit of background story, when I think about this, I look back in my life, before I was a Christian, there were so many moments that now as a believer, I see God's fingerprints all over my life. From when I was growing up, to all the disasters I've been through, to all the near-death experiences, just all these things before I even knew God, I see His fingerprints all over my life. And maybe if you guys just think about it, just focus on your childhood, your teenage years, where you are right now, you can see the same exact thing. I tried so hard. During my teenage years, my parents were Catholics. We went to St. Bernadette on Old Keene Mill, one of the biggest churches in this entire area. I've told you guys before, we didn't even go inside the church. We stood outside the lobby. That's how church was for me. But at that point, growing up, I did not want God. I ran away from Him. I chose not to want to be near Him. I did not want to listen to Him. I wanted no part of it in my life. But the funny thing is that all those moments, even when I hated God, because I wanted to be in control of my own life, my own purposes, when I found Him, He was right there the whole time. Me thinking this whole entire life, up until that point, I was running away from God, but He was right there the whole time. Verse 28. For in Him we live and move and have our being. In Him we live and move and have our being. As even some of your poets have said, for we are indeed His offspring. You guys think of a stream, right? Where does a stream come from? Mountain, air, a body of water, yeah. A stream, a little tiny stream, it comes from a spring, like a big, kind of lake, like a body of water. All of you guys are right. And a beam of light, it comes from the sun. But so, we find ourselves. If a stream finds its life because of a spring, and a beam of light finds itself because of the sun, we ourselves find out we are alive because of God. Our lives are so connected. So some of us don't realize that the very breath that we take right now is by the grace, mercy, and love of Christ. The very breath that we're breathing. As He determined the time set for us, basically when we were born, He knows when we are going to die. He knows that little dash on your tombstone, everything that you're going to do. He has determined those times. He is our life. He is the length of our days. And if you guys think not, if you guys don't think that the very simple idea of breathing is a gift from God, think about your lungs for a second. Who in all creation designed them? Who ever taught the lungs how to ever receive air and turn it into carbon dioxide, get it out of your body, and give you the breath of life? The very mechanisms of the way our body works was all planned and purposed by God. Deuteronomy 32 verse 6 says this, is He not your Father, your Creator, who made you and formed you? Think about you guys for a second. Our moms and our dads. When we were kids, when we were little babies, our parents, we had to live and depend on them as well. Scripture says right here, God says, for in Him we live, right? We live because of God. We live in Him. When we were growing up, this is probably a really small analogy, but when we were growing up as little babies, we needed our parents. We lived because of them. Unlike every animal on the planet Earth where they're mommy tigers or whatever, they let the babies go right afterwards. But for us as humans, as babies, as little children, we need our parents to survive. They fed us. They guided us. They taught us. They let us live. Because we could not live on our own. But with God, who is immensely more wiser than our parents who are sinners, more powerful than our parents in every way. If your parents provided all that love, that care, that guidance, that path, if you trust in God, if you love God, would you not say that God has such a more powerful sustenance than your parents have ever given? Like I said, the very air that we breathe. Colossians 1:17 says, He is before all things, and in Him all things hold together. I realized God doesn't need me. At the end of the day, it's me that needs Him. He's the one that's keeping me together. He's the one that's giving me breath. He's the one that's provided me all this talent to do what I think that He needs me to do. What's the point? Why was God speaking to me and like honestly breaking me down with this? What's the point? He was challenging me. I challenge you guys as well. He made me realize that every semblance of my being, my existence, is owed to God Almighty. Not because of Peter. Peter's not alive because of Peter. Peter doesn't have a great job because of my efforts and my resume. It's because of God. I owe Him everything. But the point of all of this, of all the pain I went through, all the suffering that you guys went through, maybe are going through right now. Verse 27. All the things that have happened to us to this point was so that we would be able to seek God in the hope that we might find our way to Him. It's so that we can know God. It's so simple. It lines up to that point. If you take this little maze of your life, it comes to the point where it says, God is just saying, I'm right here. All these paths, all this determination, whatever. We can just throw all these words out the window. Basically, all it's about is so that you and me can find Him. Romans chapter 10, verse 11 through 13 says this, As Scripture says, that anyone who believes in Him will never be put to shame, for there is no difference between Jew and Gentile. The same Lord is Lord of all and richly blesses all who call on Him. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. This is why we have gone through what we have gone through. To this point, me believing that God needed me, no. He put me through all this not for a testimony, not because He wanted to use me. He wanted me to go through all of this because He wanted me to know Him. That's what it was about. He wanted me to know Him. And me sitting here, I have a powerful testimony. I can bless people with this testimony. I can do things. I can speak things. No. Peter, it's about knowing me. But it didn't end there. It's not so we can just have this sense of peace of knowing God. Because peace alone doesn't fully show why God has planned all these moments in our lives. John chapter 15, verse 9 through 11. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. This is Jesus speaking into all of our lives right here. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in His love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. He did all these things, not just for us to be saved, not just to find this idea of happiness, that's an emotion, but I think P.D. talked about this one time, this supernatural joy in our lives. Our joy is complete in Him. I realized that after these tough weeks, like I said in the beginning, God doesn't need me for His purpose, because He can do it completely on His own or with somebody else. But what God really wants me to do is participate in His joy, so that in His joy, my joy will be complete, my happiness, my purposes. And I just have this little challenge for you guys. And this is just the things that God has put into my heart. And I just want to leave it with this. 3 things. 1, we can't be in control. Not always. Not ever. We can't. Because I'm sure when you guys think about it, when you are in control of your own life, when you make your own decisions, bad things tend to happen. Maybe good for a little bit, but a lot of times bad things tend to happen. But I want you to know this. Yes, we are not in control, but God will provide. You all know Jeremiah 29:11. We all know He has plans to prosper us and not to harm us. He will provide. Number 2, it's not about our purposes. It's not about our plans. Because if you look into Proverbs chapter 20, verse 24, a man's steps are directed by the Lord. Every step that we have is directed by the Lord. How then can anyone understand his own way? We think our purposes are our own. But it's not about our purposes, guys. Because God has such a bigger plan. And finally, number 3. This is where I'll talk about the Avengers for a second. Just like the Avengers, honestly, if you look at all their stories as individuals, they are all amazing in their own right. They all are. But they need each other. You guys watch the movie, whenever you do watch it soon, you realize that they need each other to get over their troubles and the circumstance that they're in. I want us to realize as a church, we as a church, as brothers and sisters, leaders or not, we are all amazing in our own right. No brother or sister is better than us, but we are just as good as them. Never believe for a second that somebody is better than you. But you are just as good as them. But we need each other. We need each other. God provided all of us to build each other up, to encourage each other, and to edify each other. Ultimately, to bring His word, His plan, and His purpose to this world. God really humbled me when He told me He didn't need me. But I will say this, that God has given me so much joy by giving me the opportunity to participate in His work. And I want to share that with you guys, that you have the same opportunities to do so. Let's pray.